Welcome back. Now, kidnappings in Gauteng surged by nearly 16% in just the first 3 months of this year. That's according to newly released provincial crime statistics. Police made 88 more arrests tied to 62 kidnapping cases and rescued 77 victims between January and March. But it's not all grim news, because the murder rate actually went down by almost 11%. Still, arguments, road rage and firearms remain the main ingredients in most deadly confrontations, often playing out in public or even at home. To unpack what this all means, I'm joined now by security strategist and retired Interpol ambassador Andy Mashaile, who joins us now. Andy, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Then let's just talk about these statistics. What did you initially think of them? I mean, we had seen the national crime statistics and you see Gauteng. Is it a case of policing getting better, less reporting perhaps? Because the two can be true.
Arabile, you're quite correct. There can be less reporting. Also, on the other side of the scale, policing doing a little bit better, given the dynamics of resource congregation and resource deployment in a much more effective way. When you look at the minus 2% drop in your sexual crimes. But rape continuing, particularly in Johannesburg area. And when you look at the increase in your commercial crimes, your cyber crimes and fraud, amongst other things, as well as a decrease of 10.8% in your murder crimes. This says to me there is a balance in terms of the issues that have been creating problems for both you and I, Arabile, as ordinary members of the community, given the systemic challenges that SAPS or law enforcement agencies have had in the past few years and quarters.
This is scary, however, because you're most likely to be murdered in a public place. That's where 706 cases were at least recorded, followed by private residences or either the victim or perpetrator, with 306 cases, and then liquor outlets follows that, where 50 murders then occurred. If you're being murdered in a public place, that's ultimately scary. We've become almost lawless in a sense, and yes, maybe that number's down, but still pretty much scary. How does the police deal with something like that? Is it about more visibility?
Arabile, it's a serious concern for both you and I, Abutuak. For us, meaning us, the ordinary members of the community, to be killed brutally in public places. I saw a video of a man who had a disagreement with one guy, and he went to his car. Somebody recorded that incident. He pulled out his firearm and shot that guy 4 bullets on the chest. And this says to me, this man planned to kill that particular person who he was in disagreement with, meaning no respect for law and order. Why? Because of the sentencing and conviction, as well as incarceration, perceptions that I can kill this man, I'll go to jail for 4 years, I'll go to jail for 4 years and come out. So Arabile, when you look at the road rage incident, people have just resigned themselves to the evil of destroying and killing people that they disagree with. This means there is no more respect for the law. There is a trust deficit in the police, and people with upset state of minds would rather destroy you both life and limb, so that they can be able to execute instant or microwave justice, which is a criminal offense. And I must caution our communities in Gauteng and nationally that the rule of law must obtain. It doesn't matter how angry you are or what has happened in your space.
I mean, we talk about Johannesburg being a world-class African city, but the top 10 police stations that had recorded murder become Ivory Park, Jeppe, which is in central town as well. Then you have Orange Farm, Lenasia, Hillbrow, Ennerdale, Eldorado Park, Kagiso, Johannesburg Central, and Davidton. If we're talking about a world-class African city in Johannesburg, as the mantra used to be, that certainly has failed. Is it a case of blaming at this point? Because as you said, it seems to be a complete disregard for the law at this stage. Is it because the law has slacked, or is it because poverty and all of those other elements have just grown so much that people are just resorting to this sort of violence?
Arabile, let's put on the same scale the issue of unemployment in high risk youth, where there's high risk youth demographics. Speaking on the other side, looking at the resources that are thrown at the police. 2025, you need to throw in, SAPS needs to throw in 5,500 new recruits into the system, beefing up your resources, particularly in Gauteng. So you have a balance, a cocktail of unemployment and a cocktail of a cocktail where resources are not at par, so that at the end of the day you level the playing field by having employment as well as visible policing. Police who would have the necessary expertise in terms of preventing crime and who would have the required expertise in combating crime. Combating in this instance would mean investigations, Arabile. It would mean that one detective would have, by law, as required by law, 4 people who are providing him with information in a certain policing precinct. If this was to be a Kagiso, one detective at Kagiso must have, by law, 4 informants. If you have 10 police investigating officers, you would have 40 informants. That would balance out the equation in terms of tracking down from an information that is provided by community members in tandem with the investigations by the investigations officers.
Yeah. Role of technology, surely that would help.
Big time, Arabile. You know, in my other life, Arabile, I am a cybersecurity advisor and being a member of the EXCO of the International Cybersecurity and Investigations Committee. I use artificial intelligence in my day-to-day research and many other things and all other investigations. This is high time that the partnerships, the private-public partnerships that the law enforcement agencies have with CCTV companies like Vuma would now need to be rolled out throughout the whole of Gauteng, so that suspect tracing and tracking would be easier from an investigation's point of view, where the results of the investigations would yield or would transform into arrests that would yield into prosecutions that would lead into convictions and ultimately incarcerations.
One would say, however, that, you know, we look at technology and it's all about the investment, because it's going to need financial backing, which is going to be a lot. And of course, we're seeing budget cuts happening across the board because of a restrained fiscal environment in the country. Yet you need to add, as you said, 5,500 new recruits. Technology needs to be added to. And yet criminals are continuing to find their own way, and they're advancing in the form of artificial intelligence too. How big a conundrum are we going to sit with here? Because it feels like it's going to take a while to get this all right, and by then, criminals would have already advanced even further.
Arabile, I am sitting on the Gauteng Ethics Advisory Council, and we released a report of corruption on the 8th of May. And when the Premier was accepting that report, he said to all and sundry, including the media that was there, he is upset that 1.8 billion rands is going back to Treasury. I would take that 1.8 billion rands, Arabile, inject it into your municipal police, which now have cross-border policing powers signed out in 2025, cooperating with your South African policing services in Gauteng. From that 1.8 billion rands that goes back to Treasury, take part of that 1.8 billion rand, throw it into the passages of your cyber or digital space in the SAPS, as well as your municipal police department, so that you can have a better rollout cameras at your byways and freeways that would be able to track and trace suspects who commit your cash and transit hijackings at your hotspots or vulnerable areas, be them your N12, R28, N3, N4 towards Krugersdorp, and November 4 towards Mpumalanga, November 3 towards your KZN, as your November 6 on towards your Eastern Capes of the world, towards your Bloemfontein. It would be much more easier when these monies that go back to Treasury because of underspending are converted into funding vehicles for security and safety, because in the absence of security and safety, tourism gets infected because of the perception of violent crimes that would make it difficult for us to can harvest tourism dollars. That would mean a great turnaround for Gauteng from an economic base point of view.
Complex province to police by the sounds of it, and so much certainly still needed. And it's not just a Gauteng issue, certainly a national one too. Andy Mashaile, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it this morning. Have a great Sunday. Certainly we'll be watching the comrades, I believe, as well then. So we'll certainly see you very soon.